more on that unprecedented bust of the secret Chinese police operation, let's go to Congressman Seth Moulton, who was a member of the House Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. Congressman, you've got to come up with a shorter name for that committee. The secret police station that the feds raided in New York City late yesterday is not the only one. We hear there may be more in the United States. What do you know about that?
Well, there are obviously reports that these exist not only throughout the United States, but throughout the world. And it's quite absurd. I mean, the idea that the Chinese Communist Party has these police stations in foreign countries to pursue, harass, even prosecute not only their own citizens, but Chinese Americans, American citizens just exercising their constitutional rights to free speech, some of the things that we take for granted here in the United States, but are not legal in China. You know, that it's just a really absurd situation, and obviously we need to crack down. I'm frankly surprised it's taken us this long to make these arrests.
Do you expect more arrests to come?
Yes, absolutely. Clearly, this is a practice that we need to stamp out because they're infringing on the rights of American citizens. And let's be clear, the victims here, the targets of these Chinese Communist Party police stations are Chinese Americans. They're Chinese expats. They're former Chinese citizens who have the courage to speak out against the authoritarian regime in China. Those are the victims here. And in fact, you know, you mentioned how our committee name is so long. The reason it's so long is because we want to make it clear to everybody who watches this committee do its business that our target, our concern is not the Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party and their authoritarian leaders, their authoritarian goals all over the globe, their oppression even of American citizens through these police stations right here on American soil.
The Justice Department also announced the indictments of 34 people in China. They're accused of setting up fake American profiles on social media to spread disinformation about China, about the war in Russia, about COVID, even about Black Lives Matter protests. Was this to sow dissent here in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. And frankly, it's because Xi Jinping and his authoritarian regime don't have a good story to tell. You know, their values are very against not just American values, but I would argue against common human values. If you are a Chinese citizen, you're not allowed to speak out against the government. You're not allowed to have certain views. Your movements are tracked just going around your hometown, just walking down the street in Beijing. That's the kind of authoritarian regime that Chinese live under. This is the kind of oppression that's going on against the Chinese people all the time. And frankly, it's pretty obvious why people don't like that. So Xi Jinping and his Chinese Communist Party have to sow disinformation, have to try to dispel the truth about what's going on at home to make a better case to the world and to their own citizens.
I ask about that sowing disinformation because that's at the heart of the TikTok debate. You know, there are many who say, you know, if the tables were turned and we owned a social media giant company that was in the phones of, you know, millions and millions and millions of Chinese citizens, we would put our thumb on the scale to make sure there were pro-American things being fed into the algorithms. You know, we have TikTok, who owns us, you know, owned by ByteDance, which is a Chinese company. And why wouldn't they be also sowing disinformation through that app and its algorithms?
I just fundamentally disagree with that premise. The United States government doesn't go into private companies like Google and Facebook and give them government propaganda to force onto anybody's phones, whether they're Americans or Chinese or anyone else in the globe. That's not what our government do. That's against, that's not what our government does, sorry. That's against our Constitution. That's against our American values. So it's not at all the same. We don't have, you know, FBI outposts or American police stations scattered across Beijing to intimidate and prosecute American citizens who may be visiting China. And yet that's what China is doing to us. So don't equate the two.
Oh, no,
we have
I wasn't
very different
equating
approaches
the two.
to governing. We have very different values.
Right. No, I wasn't equating the two. That's the argument about TikTok. And surely they, if we've just arrested a bunch of them for sowing disinformation through social media, why wouldn't they also be sowing disinformation through TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the reality, is that that this is why we're having this debate, and we're having it in the halls of Congress.
Right.
Because TikTok is dangerous. There's the potential that TikTok is more dangerous down the road because the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, can tell them what to do. They have that authority over this company.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.